They made me sheriff on Christmas Day as a joke. Drunk Mayor Patterson pinned that badge on my chest while the whole saloon roared with laughter. "Let the girl try," he shouted, slapping his knee like he'd invented comedy. I was 19 years old, a hotel clerk, and female. The trifecta of reasons why no one took me seriously. I stood there in that smoke-filled room, feeling the weight of that tin star against my ribs. The men were howling. Someone bought a round to celebrate the funniest thing they'd seen all year. Tom Wheeler said something about me making coffee for criminals. More laughter. I kept my face stone cold, but my heart was pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it. The previous sheriff had quit 3 weeks ago after the James gang robbed our bank. Just rode out one morning, left his badge on the desk, didn't look back. Nobody blamed him. Nobody wanted the job after that. The town had been without law ever since. And it showed. Fights every night, stolen horses, men settling scores with fists, and sometimes worse. I walked back to my room at the hotel that night with the badge still pinned to my dress. Through the window, I could see the saloon still lit up, still celebrating. They thought it was hilarious. A girl sheriff, a child playing dress-up with a real badge. I looked at my reflection in the dark glass. 19, small, female. Everything they saw when they looked at me. But they didn't see everything. I'd been reading law books for 6 months. Started after Papa died and left me alone in this world. Mama had gone when I was 12. Consumption took her slow and mean. Papa lasted until I was 18. Then his heart just stopped one morning. No warning, no goodbye. I'd learned early that nobody was coming to save me. Nobody was going to hand me anything. If I wanted to survive, I had to be harder than the world trying to break me. The sheriff's office was cold when I let myself in near midnight. The town was finally quiet. Everyone sleeping off their celebration. I lit the oil lamp and looked around. Dusty desk, wanted posters curling at the edges, a gun belt hanging on a peg, keys to the empty jail cells. Everything the previous sheriff had abandoned. I sat in his chair. My feet barely touched the floor. "They think it's funny," I said aloud to the empty room. My voice sounded strange, small. I cleared my throat and tried again. "They think it's a joke." It was, but a joke's a joke only if everyone keeps laughing. I looked at that badge pinning my dress, catching lamplight. I could take it off, go back to changing sheets and serving breakfast at the hotel. Keep my head down. Stay small, stay safe. Stay dismissed. Or, I opened the first law book. Territorial statutes, criminal codes, property rights. I'd read some before, but not like this. Not with purpose burning in my chest like a coal. They'd given me 7 days until New Year's. 7 days to prove myself or become the punchline they expected. I pulled the wanted posters down and spread them across the desk. 17 men. Horse thieves, claim jumpers, robbers, one murderer. I studied their faces, memorized their crimes, learned their patterns. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From something else. Something that felt like anger and determination mixed together until I couldn't tell them apart. By dawn, I'd memorized every wanted man in 3 territories and read 50 pages of law. My eyes burned. My back ached. The lamp was running low on oil through the window. I watched the sun come up on December 26th, first day of being sheriff. First day of showing them what underestimating a woman costs. I'd spent 19 years being dismissed. Too young, too female, too small. Every door shut before I could knock. But they'd handed me a key, meant it as mockery. But a key's a key, regardless of the joke behind it. Mama died when I was 12, Papa 3 years later. I'd raised myself, Learned early that soft girls don't survive frontier towns. So I'd hardened, piece by piece, year by year, until I was nothing but edges and determination. Now they'd see exactly how hard I'd become. He wrote in on December 26th. Just after noon, I was at my desk, still studying. When I heard the horse, something about the sound made me look up. The way the hooves hit the frozen ground. Steady, sure, deliberate. I watched him through the window, too straight in the saddle, too confident in his bearing. The way he dismounted said lawman louder than any badge could. My stomach dropped. I knew what this was before he tied his horse to the post. The door opened. He was tall, maybe 30, with the kind of face that had seen things and decided to keep existing anyway. Eyes that assessed everything in one sweep. He looked at me, sitting at the sheriff's desk like he was trying to solve a puzzle he didn't remember. Starting. Sheriff's office, he asked. You're in it? I said, kept my voice flat. I'm looking for the sheriff. You found her. Something crossed his face. Not surprise, exactly. More like confirmation of something he'd suspected but hoped wasn't true. He took off his hat. Polite. That made it worse, somehow. Jack Deacon, he said. Former U.S. Marshal. Territorial governor sent me to assist the new sheriff. There it was. The word that made my jaw clench. Assist. Like I was a child needing help with arithmetic. Like the badge on my chest was decorative. I can read, Mr. Deacon, I said. I can write. I can shoot. What exactly will you be assisting with? His eyebrows rose just slightly. The governor thought a girl couldn't handle it. I interrupted. You can tell him I'm handling it fine. I stood up. Didn't help much with the height difference, but I wasn't about to have this conversation sitting down. He looked at my badge. I watched his eyes do the math. Girl plus badge equals mistake. I'd seen that calculation on every face in town. Idaho Pete was spotted 20 miles north, I said. Horse thief, $500 reward, evaded the last 3 sheriffs. I can tell you his real name is Peter Kendrick, born in Missouri, 1847. Wanted in 4 territories for horse theft and 1 count of cattle rustling, known to camp near water. Favors Appaloosas, travels alone. I recited it all from memory, watched something shift in his face. You memorized the wanted posters? He said, last night, all 17 of them. I sat back down. Now, Mr. Deacon, you can stay if you want. The boarding house has rooms. But I'm the sheriff. Not you. We clear Crystal, he said, but he didn't leave. I knew his type. Seen it all. Done it all. Patient with incompetence because he expects it. He'd pat my head metaphorically and do the real work while I played sheriff. Over my dead body. He had kind eyes, though I hated that. Would have been easier if he'd been cruel. Kindness is harder to fight. Kindness expects gratitude, and I had none to give. That afternoon, I arrested Thomas McKee for drunk and disorderly. Not exactly challenging McKee was our regular drunk, harmless and predictable. But it was my arrest, my paperwork, my authority. I walked him to the cell, locked him in, filled out the forms with careful handwriting. Jack Deacon watched from the doorway. Didn't say a word. His silence felt like judgment. Like he was waiting for me to fail so he could step in and fix things. I told myself I didn't care what he thought. First lie of many. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about him. About the way the governor had sent backup before I'd even started. About how the whole town probably relaxed when they heard a real lawman had arrived. About how my week of proving myself had just gotten infinitely harder. I got up, lit my lamp, read more law. Knowledge was my only weapon. If I was going to compete with his experience, I needed every advantage I could get. Through my window, I could see the sheriff's office, dark, empty, mine, for now. December 27th, I broke up a saloon fight alone while Jack was at the boarding house eating breakfast. 2 minors, both drunk, both twice my size. I walked in, assessed the situation, made my voice cut through the chaos. "Enough," I said. They didn't stop. I drew my gun. That got their attention. I said enough. You can leave peacefully or spend the night in my jail. Your choice. Something in my voice made them believe me. Maybe because I meant it. Maybe because my hands were steady, even though my heart was racing. They left. Everyone in the saloon stared at me. I holstered my gun and walked out like I'd done it 100 times instead of never. My hands didn't start shaking until I was back in my office. Jack showed up 10 minutes later. Someone had told him. Of course, someone had told him. Small town. Big mouths. You should have waited for backup. He said, I am the backup. You could have been hurt. But I wasn't. I looked up from my paperwork. I'm the sheriff, Mr. Deacon. That means I handle situations. Not wait for situations to be handled for me. His jaw tightened. We stared at each other. 2 stubborn people realizing this was going to be harder than either of us thought. The telegraph came at noon. Idaho Pete spotted north of town, 20 miles out. The man who'd evaded 3 sheriffs. The man with a $500 bounty. My ticket to proving myself. I stood up. Grabbed my coat. Jack stood too. I'll go, he said. We'll both go. I said, you don't have the experience, and I'll never get it sitting here. I checked my gun. He's on my territory, my jurisdiction, my arrest. Your death if you go alone. Then come with me, I said. But I make the calls. We clear. The muscle in his jaw worked. He didn't like it. Didn't matter. This was my chance. Idaho Pete meant respect. Meant proof. Meant everything. Fine, he finally said. Your calls? I heard the doubt anyway. We rode out within the hour. 2 horses. Winter landscape. Miles of frozen silence between us. I'd never tracked a man before. Never hunted anything bigger than respect. Fear sat in my stomach like a stone, but I'd swallowed fear before. It tasted familiar. I watched Jack's back as we rode, straight and sure. He knew what he was doing. Probably done it 100 times. I was betting everything on law books and determination. Hoping that would be enough. The ride north was cold. Not just weather the space between us. I'd built walls my whole life. He was the first person who didn't try to climb them. Just rode parallel. Somehow, that was worse. We made camp that first night without speaking beyond necessities. He gave me the better blanket without comment. I took it without thanks. Kindnesses between strangers cost too much. I'd learned that young. You accept kindness. You owe something. Owing meant vulnerability. Vulnerability meant pain. But lying there, wrapped in his blanket, watching stars through bare branches, I wondered, when did I decide kindness was expensive? And who set that price? Probably the same day I buried Papa and realized I was alone. The same day I understood that needing people meant losing them eventually. And losing hurt worse than loneliness ever could. I pulled the blanket tighter. Tomorrow we'd find Idaho Pete. Tomorrow I'd prove myself. Tomorrow I'd show Jack Deacon and everyone else that underestimating me was the biggest mistake they'd make. Tonight. Though, tonight I was just 19 and cold and scared and pretending I wasn't all 3. The second day tracking taught me something. Book knowledge and field experience aren't enemies. They're partners. I read the trail from what I'd learned: property maps, water rights, territorial boundaries. He read it from what he'd lived broken branches. Horse tracks? Old campfire sites? Together. We were complete. I didn't say that aloud. Thought it constantly. Jack pointed out signs I would have missed. Hoof prints in frozen mud. Fabric caught on bark. I showed him property boundaries that meant legal jurisdiction, federal land versus territorial, where we could arrest versus where we needed warrants. You really did study, he said around our small noon fire. All night Christmas. Most of yesterday. I ate jerky that tasted like leather. Law's the only advantage I have. Not the only one? I looked at him. He was watching the horizon, face unreadable. You're smarter than the last 3 sheriffs combined, he said. They just rode hard and hoped. You're thinking? That matters more than experience, sometimes. Something warm bloomed in my chest. I stamped it down. Compliments were dangerous. Made you soft, made you want more. We rode on. That night's camp had more words, small truths, traded like currency. He told me about his wife, Sarah. Cholera took her 2 years back. He'd been marshalling, away on a job. Came home to find her already buried. Quit after that, he said, staring into the fire. Justice felt pointless when I couldn't even save the one person who mattered. I understood that. The pointlessness, the wondering why you keep going when everything you love turns to dust. My mama died when I was 12. I heard myself say, consumption. Took her slow. I watched her fade for months. Papa tried, but he was broken after. Lasted 6 more years. Then his heart just stopped, like he'd been waiting for permission to go. Jack looked at me. Really looked. Not with pity, with understanding. No one left to disappoint but yourself, he said quietly. Exactly. We sat with that. 2 people who'd learned too young that survival meant standing alone. The next morning, I found the trail. Idaho Pete had camped near a creek that ran through disputed territory. Federal land on one side, territorial on the other. But according to the survey maps I'd memorized, the creek itself was federal jurisdiction. He's trespassing on federal land, I said. That makes it our arrest regardless of territorial boundaries. Jack smiled, actually smiled. Legal trap? Smart. Book smart, I said, but I smiled too. Small, brief, dangerous. We found Idaho Pete 2 hours later. I'd worked out the approach using property law. Jack executed it with tactical precision. No shots fired. Clean arrest. Pete looked at my badge and laughed. Girl sheriff caught me. Girl sheriff who knows property law better than you know horses, I said, snapped the cuffs on his wrists. You've been evading arrest by crossing jurisdictional lines. Clever. But you camped on federal land? That was stupid. His laugh died. Jack almost smiled again. Almost. The ride back had less silence, more conversation. He asked about the hotel work. I asked about marshalling. We traded stories like we were building something. I didn't name it. Partnership terrified me. Always had. I told myself I didn't need a partner. But watching him work methodical, respectful, competent, I wondered if maybe I'd been lying. Maybe needing isn't weakness. Maybe it's just sense. He handed me coffee that morning. Our fingers touched on the tin cup. Brief. Accidental. Electric. I pulled back too fast. Saw him notice. Saw him not comment. Silences. I was learning. Could be kind. We rode into town with Idaho Pete in chains. December 29th, 4 days into being sheriff. People stared. Actually stared. The girl sheriff had delivered. I felt victory bloom in my chest, sharp and sweet. But I knew the truth. We'd delivered that word 2 letters that changed everything. That night, back in the office, I wrote the report. Arrest of Idaho Pete. I started with I apprehended, crossed it out. Wrote, we apprehended. Stared at that word. Jack, was at the boarding house. I was alone with my honesty. Turned out honesty was harder than outlaws. December 29th. Late afternoon, Jack was at the telegraph office sending confirmation of Idaho Pete's arrest. I was alone in the office when they rode in. 3 men. Broken Creek boys. I recognized them from wanted posters. Petty criminals. Dangerous in groups. They tied their horses outside. Walked in like they owned the place. The biggest one smiled at me. All teeth. No warmth. Girl sheriff, he said. Heard about you? Cute. My heart started pounding. I stood up slowly, hand near my gun. Business or trouble? I kept my voice steady. Miracle. Just wanted to see for ourselves. Town's got a girl playing lawman. He leaned against my desk. Where's the real sheriff, sweetheart? Looking at him. I didn't back up. State your business or leave. Or what? The other 2 laughed. You gonna arrest us, if necessary. He moved fast. Grabbed for my gun. I was faster. Drew. Cocked. Aimed. My hands didn't shake. Another miracle. I was collecting them today. Try again, and I shoot, I said. Self-defense, legal, and justified. He believed me. Something in my eyes made him step back. All 3 of them retreated to the door. We'll be back, little girl, the big one said. Count on it. They left. I didn't lower my gun until they were mounted and gone. Then I set it on the desk. Gentle, like it might explode if I moved too fast. My hands started shaking then. Not small tremors, big shakes. My whole body. I sat down hard, tried to breathe. Couldn't quite manage it. Jack found me 10 minutes later behind the jail, still trying to stop shaking. Witnesses had told him everything, every detail. How I'd drawn, how I'd stood my ground, how I'd won. You stood. He said, just that. Not, you should have waited. Not, you could have died. Just, you stood. That broke me. I turned away, tried to hide it, failed. I'm scared. Jack. His name. First time I'd used it. Every day. I'm 19 and small, and they could have. But they didn't. He didn't touch me. Didn't patronize. You're alive. You're standing. That's what counts. I'm terrified, I whispered. Every single day. I just can't show it. I'm scared too, he said quietly. For you. With you. I looked at him then. Really looked? Saw something in his eyes that made my breath catch. If I let myself need you, I'll lose myself. I said the truth, raw and ugly. Everything I've built, or you'll find more of yourself. He stepped closer. Strength doesn't divide when shared. It multiplies. I wanted to believe that. Couldn't afford to. The shaking started in my fingers, spread to my arms, my whole body. By the time Jack found me, I was trembling like winter leaves. Couldn't stop. Couldn't hide. I hated him seeing it. Hated myself for caring that he saw. But he looked at me like I'd done something brave. Maybe I had. Bravery and terror wear the same face sometimes. I'd learned that today. Standing there with 3 men who could have killed me. Standing anyway, drawing faster, winning, because I refused to lose. They'll come back, I said. Probably. I might not win next time. You might. He finally moved closer. Still didn't touch. Respected the space I needed. But you'll stand. That's who you are now. That's who you've always been. You just needed the badge to prove it. I wanted to lean against him, against something, anything. I'd been standing alone so long, my legs ached with it. But leaning meant falling. Falling meant breaking. I'd sworn never to break again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing that hand reaching for my gun. Kept feeling that moment between living and dying. Jack was across the street at the boarding house. I sat in the dark office, wondering when proximity became comfort, when his absence became loneliness. Dangerous thoughts. I'd survived this long by not needing. Needing meant vulnerability. Vulnerability meant pain. Some lessons. You learn too well to unlearn. New Year's Eve morning. They came back, the Broken Creek boys and 3 more. 6 men total. Armed, angry. Demanding Idaho Pete's release. I was ready. Had been ready since yesterday. Jack and I looked at each other across the office. No words needed. 4 days of working together had taught us a language beyond speaking. What's the play? Sheriff, he asked. Sheriff. He called me Sheriff. First time without hesitation. It mattered. Legal stalling, I said. We can't release a prisoner without proper territorial documentation. That's law. Buys us time. How much time? However long it takes for the territorial marshal to arrive. You already sent for him. I showed him the telegraph receipt. Sent 2 days ago, right after we'd arrested Pete. Planning ahead. Using my brain since I couldn't outmuscle anyone. Smart, Jack said. Positioned himself by the window. I'll handle tactics. You handle law. We worked synchronized. I cited territorial codes through the door. Bought minutes, then hours. Jack set up defensive positions, barricaded the door. Made sure we had clear sight lines. Her mind, his training, our survival. The outlaws outside grew frustrated, shouted threats, fired warning shots. Inside. Jack and I stayed calm. Moved together like we'd done this for years instead of days. If we die, I started. We're not dying, he said, but if we do, we won't. His certainty steadied me. Mine strengthened him. Reciprocal courage. If we survive this, I said during a lull, I'm teaching you to make decent coffee. If we survive this, he said, almost smiling, I'm letting you. Future tense. Together, assumption of tomorrow. The shift happened somewhere between danger and banter, between fear and trust, between me and we. We moved like we'd worked together for years. He covered left. I covered right. No discussion, just knowing. When did we learn each other? When did his breathing become familiar as my heartbeat? The territorial. Marshall arrived 3 hours later with 4 deputies. My telegraph. My planning. Our salvation. All 6 outlaws arrested. Idaho Pete stayed in his cell. Town gathered to watch. 6 armed men against 2 badges. We'd held. Mayor Patterson came afterward. sober, serious. "I was wrong about you, Sheriff," he said. I should have felt victorious. Did. Partly. But I was watching Jack check the prisoners, methodical and sure, and thinking different thoughts. About partnership, about strength that multiplies instead of divides, about how I'd been wrong too. Wrong about needing help, wrong about sharing authority, wrong about everything that mattered. Watching him reload during the siege, calm under pressure, I'd understood something new. One badge was power. 2 badges were invincible. Maybe that's what I'd been afraid of all along. Not weakness through needing, power through partnership. Power meant responsibility. To him, for him. With him, we'd held off 6 men, protected our prisoner, upheld the law, together, that word again. Everywhere now, impossible to escape. "Good work," Jack said quietly after everyone left. "Good work." I echoed, looked at him. Really looked. "Thank you." For what? For letting me lead, for not taking over, for trusting me. "You earned it," he said simply. I thought about Christmas night. 5 days ago, me alone with a joke badge and real determination. Now I had respect, had proved myself, had everything I'd wanted. So why did it feel incomplete? New Year's Eve night. The whole town celebrated our victory. Music from the saloon, laughter, joy. I sat in the dark sheriff's office, staring at my packed bag. I'd decided to leave. Not because I'd failed, because I'd succeeded. Because success came with attachment, and attachment meant loss, and loss meant pain. Inevitable mathematics I'd learned too well. I needed Jack, not professionally, personally, completely. The need terrified me more than 6 outlaws ever could, outlaws I could face with a gun. This no weapon for this. My bag sat there. All my possessions. Not much. Never had much. Easier to move when you travel light. Easier to leave when you've got nothing tying you down. I'd done it before. Left everything. Started over. Each time a little easier. Each time a little more dead inside. Except this time felt different. This time felt like amputation. Cutting off something living to save something dying. Outside, fireworks started. New Year's celebration. New decade. New century approaching inside. I was choosing between new life and old safety. Why did safety feel like death? Why did danger feel like living? The door opened. Jack. Of course. Like he had radar for my worst moments. "You're not celebrating," he said. "No." He saw the bag, saw my face, understood everything. "You're leaving." Not a question. Statement. I couldn't speak. Nodded. "Why?" he asked quietly. Everything broke then. All my walls, all my armor, all my careful control. "I don't know how to do this." My voice cracked. Be strong and need someone. Be sheriff and be soft. Every time I've let my guard down, I've been hurt. I can't what? If I love you, I'll lose myself. There it was, the truth, raw and bleeding. Everything I've built, everything I am, I'll lose it all. Jack was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. You think I'd let you lose yourself? He shook his head. I've watched you build yourself up all week. I'm in awe of your strength, your intelligence, your courage. Why would I want to diminish any of that? Men always do. I'm not other men. He stepped closer. If you need to go, go. I won't stop you. But you're not running from danger. You're running from happiness. And that, his voice broke. That breaks my heart. I looked at him, really looked, saw pain I'd caused, saw love I didn't deserve, saw everything I wanted and everything I feared. I've survived alone 19 years, I whispered. Survival's my skill, my identity, my armor, but thriving, I don't know how. Neither do I, he said. We learned together. The bag sat there, packed, ready. One door, one step, one goodbye. I'd done it before. Could do it again. But something stopped me. Some small voice I'd been ignoring. Some part of me that was tired. So tired of being strong alone. So tired of surviving instead of living. So tired of walls and armor and loneliness disguised as independence. Jack left. Didn't slam the door. Worse, closed it gently, like I was breakable. Maybe I was. I sat with my packed bag and my bleeding heart and my perfect opportunity to escape. The West was wide. I could disappear, start over, be alone again, safe again, dead again. Because that's what I'd been before him. Alive, but not living. Surviving, but not thriving. Strong, but so tired of being strong alone. Outside. Fireworks painted the sky. New year, new beginning, new choice. I stared at that bag all night, watching dawn creep through the window. New Year's Day, 1880, new decade, new me. Maybe, if I was brave enough. I unpacked the bag at sunrise. Slow, deliberate. Each item returned to its place. Symbolic reversal. I wasn't running. First time in my life. I was staying for something. For someone. For myself. The act felt sacred. Resurrection. My hands shook, putting my clothes back. Not fear. Something else. Something that felt like courage and terror, mixed so thoroughly I couldn't separate them. I'd spent all night sitting with my choice, staring at that bag, remembering every time I'd run before, every new town, every fresh start, every time I'd chosen safety over risk. It had kept me alive, but it had also kept me alone. And I was tired, so tired, of alone. Jack was at the boarding house. I walked there as dawn turned the sky pink, knocked on his door, waited, heart pounding. He opened it, saw my face, started to speak. "Don't," I said. "Let me talk. Please." He stepped back. "Let me in." I stood in his small room, gathering courage, like kindling. "I'm not running," I said. "I'm staying. I'm still sheriff that doesn't change. My name stays on the door. I make the calls, but deep breath. I want you here as deputy, as partner, as mine. If you'll have me. If you can be patient while I learn how to be loved." Jack stared at me. I watched emotions cross his face. Surprise, hope, something that looked like joy. I never wanted anything else, he said quietly. Never wanted to take over. Just wanted to stand beside. I know that now. I stepped closer. Took me all night to understand, but I know. You see me, really see me. Not what you want me to be. What I actually am. And you, my voice broke. You like what you see. Even the scared parts. Even the broken parts. Even the parts I've been hiding my whole life. Especially those parts, he said. I pulled out the deputy badge, held it out. Stay, be my deputy. Be my partner, be mine. He took it, pinned it on. His hands shook too. Both of us terrified. Both of us brave. I don't know how to do this. I admitted. The partnership, the us. Neither do I. He smiled. We learn together. There it was again. Together. That word, everywhere now. We walked to the office as a unit. New Year's Day, 1880. Town was waking up. People saw us. 2 badges. 2 law officers. 2 people who'd chosen each other. I put a second chair at the desk. Second coffee cup. Second set of everything. Not replacement. Addition. Multiplication of strength. Unpacking that bag had felt like confession. Each item a prayer. Each decision a vow. I'd spent 19 years running toward safety. Took me 1 week with Jack to learn that safety isn't destination. It's companion. It's choosing someone to stand with while the world tries to knock you down. When I'd offered him that badge, my hand shook. Not fear, courage. Because bravery isn't absence of terror. Bravery is terror transformed into choice. I was terrified. Of needing. Of losing. Of loving. I chose it anyway. That's what strength looks like when it stops performing. Mayor Patterson came by mid-morning. Official congratulations. Official approval. The girl sheriff and her deputy had saved the town, caught Idaho Pete, held off 6 outlaws. We were heroes. I didn't feel heroic. I felt exhausted and scared and more alive than I'd been in years. You proved me wrong, Patterson said to me. Proved everyone wrong. I proved myself right. I corrected. That's what mattered. He left. Jack and I sat at our desk. 2 chairs, 2 badges, 2 people trying to figure out how to be we. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? For seeing me, for staying, for letting me choose you instead of rescuing me. You don't need rescuing, he said. Never did. You just needed someone to stand with while you saved yourself. 7 days. Christmas Day to New Year's Day. 1 week to transform from joke to sheriff to partner to woman in love. Impossible timeline, impossible odds. But the frontier made everything impossible possible if you were brave enough. I'd proven I was brave enough to survive. Now I'd proven I was brave enough to thrive. The difference. Him. Me. Us. 5 years later, I'm still sheriff. Jack's still my deputy. We've caught 43 outlaws, survived 2 winters so cold the ink froze, and built something I never knew I wanted. A partnership that made me more myself. Not less. We married 2 years in small ceremony. Just us and the justice of the peace. I kept my name on the office door. Kept my badge. Kept my authority. Jack never asked me to give up anything. Never tried to take over. Just stood beside me while I did my job. Turns out, that's what partnership looks like. Not surrender. Support. The territory's different now. Safer. We cleaned up most of the outlaws. Word spread about the sheriff and her deputy. People think twice before causing trouble here. Respect. Hard-earned and well-kept. Other changes, too. 2 more female sheriffs appointed in neighboring territories. Both came to talk to me first. Asked how I did it. I told them the truth. You just do it. Every day, despite the doubt, despite the fear. You just keep doing it until it becomes who you are instead of what you're trying to prove. Sarah Henley's one of them. 20 years old. Appointed 3 months ago in Miller's Creek. She stops by today with questions. I recognize that look in her eyes. Determination mixed with terror. I remember that feeling. How did you know you could do it? She asks. I think about Christmas night. The joke badge, the laughter, the decision. I didn't. I tell her honestly. I just decided to do it anyway. Knowing comes after doing, not before. She nods. Doesn't quite understand yet. She will. Jack's in the office now, reviewing wanted posters. I can hear him humming. Terrible singer. I love it. Love the sound of not alone. Love the proof of partnership. Love him. Turned out love wasn't the weakness I feared. It was the strength I needed. You regret anything? Sarah asks. I think about that question. Really think. Christmas Day 5 years ago. The mockery. The pain of being dismissed. The fear. The loneliness before Jack. The terror of almost running. No, I say finally. Even the hurt. It taught me. Made me who I am. She doesn't quite understand that either. You can't. Until you've lived it. Until you've stood alone and scared and determined. Until you've fought for respect. Until you've learned that needing someone doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. The sun's setting now. Same sun that rose on Christmas Day 5 years ago when I was 19, and a joke sheriff with a fake badge. And real determination. I'm different now. Same badge, same determination, added love, added partnership, added joy, multiplied strength. Sarah leaves. Jack comes to stand beside me on the porch. Our porch. Our office. Our life. Thinking, he asks, remembering. I say, Christmas Day. All of it. The week that changed everything. He puts his arm around my shoulders. I lean. Finally, learned how. Took me months after saying yes. Months to understand that leaning isn't falling. It's resting. It's trusting. It's being human instead of being armor. You saved yourself, Jack says, quietly. I just held the light while you did it. We saved each other. I correct. That's the truth. And it is. He saved me from loneliness, disguised as strength. I saved him from guilt, disguised as drifting. We saved each other from half-lives pretending to be whole. The frontier stretches ahead. Still wild. Still dangerous. Still beautiful in its harshness. We'll face it together. 2 badges, 2 people, 1 partnership that proves the impossible. A woman alone can survive. I'd proven that already. A woman supported can thrive. I'd learned that slowly. A woman who knows her worth can build a life worth living. I'd discovered that daily. The wisdom I'd share with Sarah. With any woman facing doubt, you don't have to choose between strength and softness. Between independence and partnership, between surviving and thriving. You can have all of it if you're brave enough to choose honestly. They gave me the badge as a joke. I took it seriously, took him seriously, took myself seriously. Turned out, taking yourself seriously is the first step to making others do the same. Not bad for a 19-year-old hotel clerk who became sheriff on Christmas Day. Not bad at all. The stars come out. Jack and I stand together watching night claim the frontier. Same stars I watched alone that first night. Different woman watching now. Same determination. Same strength. Added wisdom. I learned that strong women can still lean sometimes. That needing isn't weakness. That partnership doesn't erase identity. It enriches it. That love, terrifying as it is worth the risk. In the hardest place, I found my strongest self. In the strongest partnership, I found my truest self. And choosing that, choosing him, choosing us, that was everything.